Welcome to Gardening with the Gardiners, a podcast where we discuss our favorite plants, gardens, landscape, design, and all things horticulture, with a touch of our crazy homestead lifestyle thrown in.
I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Boone Gardner, a horticulturalist, landscape designer, and fourth-generation owner-operator of Boone Gardner Landscape.
And I'm Hope Gardner, Matt's wife, a horticulturalist with our local county extension office, as well as a landscape designer with the family business. And together, we make up
Gardening with the Gardiners. We're back.
Okay. Episode 23.
Episode 23.
This is going to be a part 2.
Part 2 of our Ireland travelogue.
Yes.
Nobody's complained, really, so...
We've gotten a little bit of feedback, which has all been good. So,
But yeah, if you ever hear something you don't want to hear and say, go back to gardening, tell us. We will. We obviously are, and this is going to be more. I think this one will try to make it more kind of
horticulturally
and design oriented.
Yeah.
Although we had good things last time. So a little bit late getting this out. We've been very, very, very busy, as most parents are this time of year with back to school. But it's particularly a
bittersweet.
And
Mom.
traumatic back to school, as Crane, of course, goes back for his junior year. He's back, and but then we sent Lily off for her freshman year at UK. Dropped her off last Sunday.
So my baby girl has flown the nest.
Yes, so big changes in the Gardner household.
Well, I think as a parent, that's one thing that we really kind of focus on is you raise your kids to go out in the world, and be independent and stand, for themselves. And so this is it's been kind of a hard week for me. I'm so excited to see what great things that, both kids, but what she goes out and does. But it is hard to cut those lead strings, it's going to be interesting. So
you got that going on, and
we wish all parents that are sending their little ones off to school the very best.
Blessings for a happy, healthy school year. So
for everybody, for teachers as well. That all the kids are coming back. School administrators, So our thoughts are with everybody out there.
And we can't believe. Back to school. Of course, we start so early now, but we're in the dog days of summer, and we'll be approaching fall here shortly. State Fair is going on right now as we speak. Kentucky State Fair and the horse show.
Kentucky State Fair, yeah. So I had a really fun time. I went out Monday and worked with the 4-H program, and am blown away every year that I get the opportunity to do this. I feel very fortunate that I do. But I help check in a lot of the 4-H, the horticulture projects coming in. And it is so neat to see the hard work that these kids put into all of the horticulture exhibits. But, if you do have a chance to get out to, any really state fair, it's really worth, that time just to walk through, some of the kids.
Well, and most people don't even, I think a lot of people go to state fair and they may go for certain things like either a concert or the midway or whatever. And a lot of times they don't even see some of these other wings, like the East Wing and the West Wing, or where all these different demonstrations or exhibits, thank you, are being shown, and livestock and everything else. It's a lot of fun.
It is fun. And I know, Kentucky is really fortunate that we have a just top-notch facility to host our state fair. And over in the South Wing, there's just so much to see. So, when it's really hot, it's a great place to escape the heat. It's air-conditioned. But get in there and really get an opportunity to visit some of those exhibits that those kids put in.
So before we go back into Ireland, I guess just a garden farm update, anything we want to talk about. It's been, I guess this is the El Nino effect, is all this rain we've been having. I don't know.
It's been crazy.
It's been amazing. I've never seen so much rain in August and this late in the season. I'm not complaining, though. It's made things tricky with the landscape, but it's keeping things watered.
Well, and in bringing it back to our trip to Ireland, it was really amazing because you think Ireland is the Emerald Isle, and like they get so much rain, and and they have not been getting rain. Unfortunately, we've been getting all of their rain, which has been really good for us because I will say that we are much greener than Ireland is, or at least it was when we were over there.
But
So,
as everything, there's two edges to every sword. So
exactly.
the weeds are out of control. We can't keep up.
Well, and I
And
think we're
things are
going
just
to
growing like mad.
they're growing like crazy. We're starting to see a lot more powdery mildew, a lot more fungus pressure because of all that moisture. But a lot if it's affecting a lot of our annuals or plants are going to lose their leaves. We're getting late enough in the season that hopefully they've got enough energy stored that just clean up that leaf debris this fall and we'll start again in the spring.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not even worth breaking out the fungicide at this point because if it's already present, it's just gonna be a preventative type thing. So.
Exactly.
And
Yes, it is a
then
preventative.
I guess you've got lots of cut flowers going on. I'm trying to
Lots.
think what else. Weeding. We talked about that. What else is there? I guess pretty soon we'll probably talk about collecting seed for the fall. So kind of putting some of your nice annuals and perennials away if you want to kind of keep that seed bank going. And
So, and this is also a great time that, if you want to make additions to your landscape in the fall, which is a great time,
great time to plant.
for planting, start now thinking about if you want to add some trees or some shrubs. You can still add perennials for fall. Obviously, you're not going to do annuals, but, if you have an area where you want to create a new garden bed, this is the time to start laying it out on paper, start thinking about what you want to do before you actually get to the time that it's go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then around the farm, things have been kind of steady. Everybody always asks about the peacocks and
The peacocks.
the babies are doing good. Like you said, the one with the single mom with a single baby.
With one of the first.
It's not even. It's like a teenager now. I guess she's gotten really big. Or I guess I can't tell yet. We'll see.
Not until they start coloring up can you really start telling. I think it's a male actually, because they'll start kind of trying to spread those tail feathers, and there's really not tail feathers
so
there
funny.
just yet.
Well, they have that kind of initial fan. That not the one that people think of, the big peacock tail, but like that little kind of looks like a turkey tail, or kind of like
Yes.
like what a kid would draw as a Thanksgiving turkey. And it's
Exactly.
funny seeing these juvenile peacocks all of a sudden flip out their tail and they strut around and start twirling around, and it's quite it's
But
quite
now
comical.
at this stage, they're all still kind of a brown color. They don't have their bright.
Yeah.
It's not like what you see on Instagram or some of these AI pictures that show baby peacocks that already have all of their color. They don't. They're just brown. They don't start getting their colors until, like you said, that puberty, teenage years, and then that's when you can really tell if it's a male or female. So right
Exactly.
now we have a lot of little brown birds that kind of look like maybe a turkey, maybe a chicken, maybe it's growing up to the size of a peacock. So, yeah. So they're still growing. They're still doing really well. Mm-hmm. We talked about, I think we didn't really get our vegetable garden in this year because of everything that's been going on. And we have been fighting weeds. So I have been putting large sheets of plastic over the garden area and using a method called solarization. And so I will put where I intend to have the garden, cover it with plastic. I usually use, if I can get a 6 mil clear plastic,
A lot of
hold
times
it
they'll use
down.
old sheet from something else. Yeah.
But that plastic will heat up like a greenhouse, and it gets those temperatures high enough that it kills the weeds that are present, and then hopefully start killing some of those weed seeds as well. So if you do have an area, you've still got just a little bit of time because you really need about 3 months of really good heat to solarize those areas to kill any of the weed seeds. But it's not too late. Go ahead and do that. That's hopefully going to help prep for next year's vegetable garden when we get it in. But that's another thing that you can consider doing right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very good point. Great way to if you have the time and you're not in a big rush. It's a great way, very green, very cost effective way of doing it, and less labor too. It's not like you have to go into the
Yes.
sod cutter and take everything up and yeah.
No, I just put a big old sheet of plastic, hold it down with some bricks or actually old terracotta pots, and let Mother Nature help me out.
It's awesome. So
Yeah.
okay, back to leg 2 of our Ireland itinerary.
Oh, what a wonderful trip that was. I'm ready to go back.
That's what she said. She keeps sending me all these reels and things of properties for sale over there. I'm like, okay, we're not quite there yet.
No, we're not, but it's always fun to dream. And I keep sending you reels of, hey, we didn't see this. We missed this, wonderful, landmark or, yeah.
There's a lot we missed. Yeah,
there's a lot we did.
So,
yeah.
We left off, we were in Kilkenny. I guess we did Smithwick's is the last thing we did, the brewery. We stayed in Kilkenny area right outside of that for about 3 nights, I guess. And then we had one of the day trips we had was down to Waterford.
So, right, you really wanted to hit Guinness. I really wanted to hit Waterford.
Did we? I don't think we discussed Waterford in the first podcast.
No, we did not. No.
So the House of Waterford, obviously the crystal, a famous Irish crystal.
Mm-hmm. And the neat thing about Waterford, it's on the coast, so we really drove.
Well, it's the oldest city in Ireland. It's actually an old Viking settlement. It's one of the
no
first
wonder
ones.
I liked it so much. Yeah, so we did get to do that tour, and it was really, really interesting. I'm going to say like in a past life, but years ago when I had more free time, I actually got into doing stained glass and really appreciate glass and glass art. And so Waterford was an area that I really wanted to see. And it was wonderful because when you do the tour, I was amazed at how much they show you. Mm-hmm. They really take you through the glass
entire process,
blowing and cutting. So that was a really fun
it's
day
a great
trip
tour
for me.
Yeah, it's a great tour if anybody does it. Even if you're not even if you think you're not into crystal, it's a fascinating tour. So
it is.
And then I guess we did some other things around there, but then we went back up to Galway.
That was
drove west.
Galway was an amazing town.
We loved it. It was really a lot of fun.
Dublin was great, and I don't want to take anything away from Dublin. It's a big city. It's got so much to offer. But I have to say, I think I really liked Galway.
Well, it was cool because we stayed in that Airbnb was literally, a 5-minute walk from the Latin District? I mean, it was like, we just walked across the water, 10 minutes maybe.
Well, we walked across the bridge. We didn't walk on the water, but we rented an Airbnb that was in a great little subdivision type of housing environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was so in the city, but it was totally quiet, and it was this little just perfect little Irish street, and a little family oriented place. And it was funny because one morning I was down there, I got the coffee and tea going and all that, and I was like, we admired this garden. This woman, the house across the way had this lovely garden. Like it was a big lot for where it was.
She was kind of on a corner lot.
Yeah, and so she had a kind of oversized lot, and it was all garden. And then she was out there that morning, this older lady out there gardening and just working her tail off. And you went over and talked to her, and you said how lovely everything was. And
put it, call it the Irish in me or whatever, but I do like to talk. And so when I see somebody that is gardening and it's a beautiful, well manicured, just tidy little garden. So of course I went over to the fence and was talking to her. Lovely lady. Mm-hmm. I think she was very honored that I went over and talked to her because I was
gardeners always
about her.
Appreciate. Everybody likes being. We work hard on our situation, and everybody likes to be acknowledged for it. So
yeah, and so we were talking about the different plants that she had, and I was admiring her dahlias, of course, but a lot of other plants that she was growing in her garden, and she was telling me that there's a couple areas that she needed to redo and how she was expanding a certain area. And it was just really cute to see her very proud of the hard work that she's done and really willing to share it. So I think that goes, across multicultures, that gardeners do like to talk about their garden. So don't be afraid, if you see somebody that they're working in their garden, tell them how much you admire it.
Yeah, say hello.
Yeah.
Learn something or pick up a new plant or whatever. So
yes.
And then, so we stayed there. We did day trips out from Galway. Mm-hmm. And then, I guess we did Ashford Castle was one trip. We'll come back to that probably. Well, we did high tea there.
We did high tea there, and that was spectacular. That could be a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah, maybe we just touch on that. We'll probably, because we're getting this podcast keeps getting longer and longer, so we may just have to kind of touch on some of these things. But we had high tea at Ashford Castle. It was just lovely. It was like being in an episode of Downton Abbey or something. You were in.
It was yeah.
It was everything you wanted, and it was just amazing.
Yes. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
And they have lovely gardens at Ashford Castle. Well, I think we might have touched on that too, because that's the Guinness.
That was their country home.
Their country home, basically, yeah.
Which is basically a castle.
Exactly.
But yeah, they've done amazing jobs with the plantings and just it's a very welcoming,
So,
massive garden.
yeah, and one thing we thought we would actually go into some detail about is peat and peat bogs and kind of peat's history or role in Ireland, because it was really neat. Obviously, everybody hears about the peat bogs, and of course, when we started hiking some of these places and going out into the landscape, there's the areas you get real quick into, and you can feel it. It's like being on a trampoline. It's kind of cool.
Oh, it's spongy.
Yeah, it's real spongy, and of course, things were drier, so it was more bouncy and not so. Sometimes, if it's wet, you obviously would just sink in. But even driving to the countryside, you were like, "What's that?" Because we saw these funny, like almost like firewood ricks stacked up.
Well, they stack them in almost like a teepee style.
And so it's where they harvest this peat, and so they would just literally go in there and cut it, and stack
And they have
them.
a special like shaped shovel. It's very long and narrow, so it cuts straight down, and it's going to cut in about what do you think that was 24?
I don't think it's that much. I think it was
No,
probably
deep into the soil, but it's only about maybe
6
6
inches.
inch wide.
Yeah.
So it's a long, narrow piece of peat that they cut. And then because typically, like you said, that land is so wet and boggy that they have to then stack these up so that they dry.
So we would see these, and so we're like, okay, and it's really, really fascinating. We was like, well, let's talk about peat a little bit. So,
Well, because it is such an important medium that we have used in various forms.
it's hardly, what's more uniquely Irish than the vast peat bogs.
Well, and it takes so long.
They cover literally nearly 1/6 of Ireland at their greatest extents, and these these wetlands have shaped the nation's ecology, the economy, the history, culture. I mean, everything for thousands of years. For generations of Irish families, this is how that they provided warmth. They would literally burn it as a fuel in their fireplaces. They would use it fuel for other stoves and other things, and even as a source of income.
Well, it's interesting because scientists and archaeologists have even found just amazing archives that have been found like inside the peat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
So,
because
like,
the way it
yeah,
mummifies things.
it does.
Growing up, you'd see the issues of your family got National Geographic, mine did too, and you'd see like what was a bog man or all these different guys, these people that are preserved. They would find in the peat bogs.
Yes.
Like or other artifacts and things because it perfectly preserves them.
And it's amazing the way that it does, like you were saying, preserves anything that I guess back in, because they've been around for what, 3,000 years?
Oh, more than that.
But like some of the people that they have found in these
Oh,
peat bogs
yes.
are like 3,000 years old.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Because when I guess they fell in the peat or whatever, because they were kind of almost like an original swamp because they hold so much water, and then you get lost in the peat bogs, and yeah.
So peat is not really, it's not soil.
No.
It's decomposed plant material that accumulates in these waterlogged environments, and then where decomposition is extremely slow or doesn't even occur at all. The process is this poorly drained soils, the rainwater saturates the ground, and then all those various things we saw that make the landscape so pretty in Ireland and Scotland: the mosses, the sedges, rushes,
the grasses, yeah.
And all these other wetland plants. They grow abundantly during the growing season. But then when they die, they would normally decompose, like in our environments or any other normal environment. They would normally decompose, through the activity of the bacteria, the fungi, insects, and all those other organisms. But peat bog, a lot of times it's so saturated, there's a lack of oxygen.
Yes.
So it's anaerobic versus aerobic.
So it's really neat because without that oxygen, the microorganisms that usually help with with composting, with decomposition, they can't fully break down because there's no oxygen in there. So it just creates these layers upon layers of vegetation that kind of accumulate over the years, and then you end up with these amazing peat bogs. So the peat bogs are actually kind of like what that sphagnum moss is that we usually think of, or peat moss. And so it does act like a sponge. It has amazing
water
holding capacity. Exactly. And as the new mosses grow upwards, the old layers beneath, they'll die, and then they only partially decompose. So it's centuries and millenniums of decomposed layers that form these peats.
Yeah, it just keeps kind of pressing layers upon layers upon layers. But that's what I said. It takes centuries and millennia to accumulate. It accumulates very slowly. I mean,
It's like 1 millimeter a
which
year.
is 0.04 inch each year. A peat deposit 10. So like for instance, a peat deposit that's 10 foot deep, 3 meters. It may therefore represent 3,000 years of continuous plant growth and accumulation. That's crazy.
That takes a long time. So some of those Irish peat bogs, they were actually formed shortly after the Ice Age. So it's nearly 10,000 years old.
That's mind-boggling.
It is.
So I guess there's really kind of two major types of peat bogs: the raised bogs, which kind of develop in lowland basins and eventually become dome-shaped masses of peat fed almost entirely by rainfall, and then the blanket bogs, found primarily along Ireland's western mountains. And that's kind of where we were, in coastal regions where abundant rainfall allows peat to blanket the hillsides and valleys alike. And that was what was amazing, because I had this image of like the peat bog being kind of these low line, like what you think, like the first one, the low line area, kind of whatever. And we're walking through the
mountains,
mountains, and it's all bogs.
There was one day that we went hiking, and I was kind of wondering. I mean, I thought, okay, well, I guess they have these wood, and really they're kind of like a bridge.
Boardwalk.
Yes.
Like little boardwalks.
They have but it goes up the side of this hill, and you're like, well, it's just kind of flat, and there's really not a lot of grass on either side. I don't know why we're supposed to stay,
It was
not
we thought
on the path.
Yeah,
but
we were like, why do we
path,
need this?
So, of course, we just hop off, and we're like, whoa, it was really spongy when we hopped off. Well, that's because I haven't had any rain. So there wasn't any saturation. But those were the peat bogs.
Yeah, and if it had been rain, you would have been started sinking or getting stuck.
Yes,
so it's good that you can see why they have the boardwalk.
now I understand that. But it was really amazing to see, and even there you could see where they had cut some of the peat out because they do use it for fuel.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They can cut kind of bricks of peat out and then put that in the fire. So
yeah, it's for centuries the locals call it turf. And
right.
And so it's served as Ireland's primary domestic fuel. I mean, that's what they used for everywhere.
So I guess kind of like where we use coal here.
Yep.
They were using peat.
Exactly. So during late spring or summer, the families would traditionally cut these rectangle blocks we described of peat from the block using that specialized hand tool. That hand tool is actually called a slane. And these freshly cut peat stacks were stacked in long rows or small pyramids where the wind and the sun would just kind of blow through and kind of dry it out. And it makes, because at first they come out nice squares and they curl, like you said, as they shrink up and lose their moisture.
Yes. So those turf fires kind of became that symbol of Irish, like rural Irish life, because they have a smell of burning peat. Yep. So that was kind of one of those traditions that the Irish families just they kind of burned in their minds.
Well, yeah, literally. I mean, you think about even like coming through Kentucky, and I mean, and this is not just, this is everywhere, but I know for me it's very evocative. Like, I love wintertime and fall and smelling people's natural wood burning fires, like, in their houses, and you go outside and you smell in the cool air. I'm sure there's kind of similar things. People grew up with the smell of this peaty, peat moss burning. And so it's like, I'm sure it's very, brings back nice memories and things.
Well, I know for me growing up, my dad was in the tobacco industry, and so the smell of tobacco hanging in the barns.
Oh, it's
going to
wonderful.
the warehouse with him, growing up, and you had that almost romanticized view of tobacco from farm life and from growing up.
Absolutely.
And so I'm sure that they have that very similar feeling towards these peats when they grow.
So obviously during the 20th century, peat harvesting became increasingly mechanized and kind of started using big machines and large-scale operations, started supplying peat to homes. Even this is amazing, electrical generating stations. I mean, they're burning on a big scale. And then, of course, horticultural industries. And that's how we know it.
That's exactly. We all have had, we talked about sphagnum moss. Peat moss and, putting it in with our potting soils. And it's because it is lightweight, it's very airy, and it holds moisture really well. That's why it works great in potting mixes, seed starting mediums, all kinds of soil amendments around the world, really. So as modern horticulture has increasingly shifted towards more renewable alternatives, such as compost bark, wood fibers, and really that cocoa fiber has become very, very popular the last couple of years. And even, some compost to a a certain point. But, because we're recognizing that, peat is slowly, it's a non-renewable resource
Yeah, it's
on
like
that
losing
huge
oil,
scale.
or coal.
So we're trying to find
Greener, more sustainable solutions to help kind of.
so that we're not kind of, because it does take so long for peat to be created, that we're trying to find other
Alternatives.
products
Yep.
that can be used in that same method. So we really are trying to get people within horticulture to look at some of these alternatives to kind of save the peat bogs in Ireland.
So just some other kind of little bit of things. It's like we talked about. It's a Nature's Climate Archive. Each layer of peat, records a chapter of environmental history. So the plants grow. They trap pollen from nearby trees, flowers, and grasses. These microscopic pollen grains, they can become sealed within that accumulating peat. And so scientists can go back and reconstruct what forests, wildfires, crops, even the climate was like back then. It's really a good time stamp of kind of those eras. And by studying everything like the pollen, the insects, charcoal, seeds, all these different plant remains, they can trace back the arrival of agriculture, periods of widespread forest clearance, even ancient wildfires, which we talked about. We saw modern wildfires.
We did.
Volcanic eruptions, even long-term climate change with pretty remarkable precision. So it really has helped kind of the science with these archives of these archives of peat bogs, these like living libraries, if you will. So we talked about the fact that these bogs actually preserve human bodies, and they're called bog bodies literally. So they're natural mummified human remains.
That's amazing.
Mostly from the Bronze and Iron Ages. The best known ones that we talked about were old Krogan man. Like you saw in these old National Geographics, they talked about this stuff dating back to approximately 300, 200 BC.
That's amazing how long ago.
It's crazy. And then another famous one is the Cloney Cavan man. I don't know how you say that, but found in County Meath. It Hope's like, she's like, you gotta mention this one because his hair contained an imported plant oil and resin styling gel. Hope knows how much I like my pomade, my Dapper Dan's. So he apparently
these guys were using
they're using pomade back
then.
Yeah. But it revealed, because he had this special type of this resin, this plant based styling gel, it revealed international trade reaching beyond the Iron Age of Ireland more than 2,000 years ago.
I thought that was hysterical that even 2,000 years ago, these men are using styling gel
in
their hair.
You gotta look good, man. You gotta look dapper.
But it's all because of those peat bogs that they were able to realize like how old
That's it.
The Iron Age trade was.
It's amazing. So maybe we could go on and on, but that's kind of a good overview. I mean, I think the bogs nowadays are just recognized as amazing global important ecosystems, and I think a lot of it now is the lands are protected and they're just nice. Like we walked through just kind of these wonderful landscapes where you can get to see
the heaths and the heathers.
Oh yeah,
these mosses and ferns.
They weren't even blooming, and it was cool. I can imagine when it was.
Yeah. Well, and then it was so neat because we really didn't see a lot of pest insects.
No, it was amazing.
But in those bog areas, the dragonflies, the frogs, there's just really neat and sometimes very rare species that they have found in these areas. So to have a healthy peatland or area, there's so much that ecologically depends on them.
Oh yeah, so they're interesting areas. So that was a cool element to see. Get to see those in person, and again see where all it comes from.
And it also makes me want to go ahead and use some of these, like the cocoa fiber, the core product,
to help preserve everything.
To help preserve it, because it really does make it does kind of bring it to life, and you get to see exactly why we're kind of trying to preserve so much.
Protect those landscapes. Yep.
So.
Another element that we thought we'd touch on is a little bit different. Like it's part of our travel log, but it's just these elements. So we want to talk about the peat bogs, which we just did. We also want to touch on stone walls and stone and the relationship of stone in Ireland, because it is, everybody knows it, but then when you go there, it is really prevalent. I mean, the stone walls are everywhere.
It's
just like driving through central Kentucky, but even more so.
Even more so.
Yeah.
It is. So, what I thought was really interesting is in the first time that I had a chance to go through Ireland, it was very interesting because I met a young lady who was about my same age that was from Ireland, and she was explaining to me that those walls, you could, when you could fence in an area with stone walls, that became your land.
Yeah, it was kind of like marking your territory, and this
Yes.
is mine.
So each of those little fences or paddock areas inside that stone wall could be owned by somebody different.
Oh yeah,
So then you might have one here, and then 4 fields down would be another one of yours, and then 2 down from that might be another one. They were not always connected. It was very kind of a hodgepodge
exactly.
blanket, but that's what was really interesting to me to see how they did that and determine whose land was whose.
It is really, and they're so widespread. I can't express. I mean, again, they're just everywhere, and it's really spectacular. And then between the stone walls and the ruins, like I mean, there's ruins and castles on every property. It seems like every farm's got some, even if it's not on the historic trust or whatever. It's still like this dilapidated, amazing ruin that like it's just tradition. And it's awesome. So I mean, this skill of Irish walls and stone building is really an ancient building technique.
Tradition.
Yeah.
Well, it dates back more than 5,000 years
To
to,
Neolithic period.
yeah,
Around
between what, 20, no, 3,500 BC?
3500 BC. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how they, like I said, they built their farmlands, they built their homes, they built, I guess, tombs.
They're building stone tombs, like you said, their homes, defensive structures.
Well, and it was before mortar and concrete were ever used. So they
No,
had to learn
it's all dry laid.
the techniques to
And
make
they,
sure that they stayed where they needed to be.
yeah, and that's what's so amazing. I mean, they're dry laid, which we'll come back to more about that in a second, but and they last hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Well, and I think because most of Western Ireland, it is limestone, so it's very similar to us. They do have some sandstone, they do have some granite, and maybe some other rock, but primarily limestone, very similar to ours.
Very similar. That's again the whiskey connection.
Yes.
We're known for our bourbon. They're known for their whiskey. That limestone water has the right pH and right flavor for all that. And again, they brought that stonecraft to Kentucky later on when they migrated here.
But when they wanted to clear out a field for production, whether it's livestock or crops, they had to get all that stone out of the field, and that's where the abundance came.
That's what blew my mind. Is just how much stone was present in these fields, these pastures, that they had to move. And so it was a necessity that turned into a really nice thing because we're going to turn it. We have to get rid of it to
be
farm.
able to use. Yes,
but just the amount of stone that was coming out of these pastures.
Oh my gosh,
it's monumental.
Well, and that's why some of those fences were monumental.
Literally. Like you talked about a dry stone wall. That's literally what it means. It's just there's no mortar holding it together. It's each stone is kind of like carefully chosen and placed so that gravity, weight, even the friction of the stones kind of being held together and balance all holds that wall together.
Yes.
The large foundation stones kind of support the smaller interlocking stones, and while there's long kind of through stones that kind of tie the wall together too, those kind of really help hold the thing and make it steady. And the end result is an incredibly strong structure that actually is like flexible enough to move slightly with frost, settling soils, and changing weather without falling apart, which that's a key thing. That's why they last so long.
Well, we put them together with mortar a lot of times, and we think, that makes them very stable. But when you think about wind, freezing and thawing of water, just the way our ground settles, it does need to have some ability to move and adjust to this environment where they have learned that so well. It's incredible.
Yeah. And as somebody does hardscape through our landscape division, obviously, I mean, it's a lot of times I'll talk people into just like those kind of things, or like a dry laid patio instead of doing a mortared patio, because it's more forgiving. It allows moisture to move through it, and then it actually, like you say, those freeze thaw cycles don't mess it up. And the same thing with this wall; it actually moves with it a little bit, and it makes for actually a much stronger wall over the long haul.
Yes, it is.
It explains why they've lasted hundreds and hundreds of years.
So that connection with Kentucky and these walls, how we got in Kentucky so many of those stone walls around our older farms, and that's because during that Great Famine between 1845 and 1852, millions of Irish immigrated to America.
Yep.
And so they brought that culture with them, and were able to start building these stone walls here in Kentucky, and then training other people as well to build those. So we've got an amazing representation of that Irish tradition right here because of our limestone. That has really helped to build, the fences, but also, just homes, churches, bridges, around the cemeteries. So a lot of those public buildings were using Irish immigrants for construction.
Oh, sure.
And they brought that with them.
They brought that technology here and taught us how to do it. And so all those counties that we saw in like Ireland, like Clare, Galway, Mayo, Kerry, and especially the Burren landscape, which we drove through and we saw, I mean, that's where I couldn't stop talking about the water. It was everywhere, miles and miles and miles and miles. Now you come to the bluegrass region in your homeland,
Yes.
of Woodford and all these, Fayette, and you see these wonderful walls and down Paris Pike and
Midway Pike.
Yeah.
On, even my parents' farm have several of those
yeah.
old stone walls. And I think, looking at that time frame and the culture of both, Ireland and America, they did teach some of the, farm workers. So it wasn't just Irish, but they did, develop that and teach other people within our region. So that it became very, very popular.
Oh yeah, and that, it's all Scottish, English, and German immigrants all contributed to Kentucky's stone building traditions, and the Irish craftsmen played a major role. So we taught,
Yes.
So the tradition is alive and well today,
Very
and
much so.
it's really cool because several organizations are working to preserve this old stone techniques and dry stone walling.
Well, it's so much heritage.
It's a lot of heritage. I mean, even UNESCO's involved, and then in the Cultural Heritage of Humanity Foundation, all this. But they acknowledge the importance of these things. And then one organization we've actually used in the past and would love to touch on is the Dry Stone Conservancy of Kentucky.
That organization has done such an amazing job to bring a lot of these dilapidated stone walls back into the beauty.
Well, and even adding new parks, so like the 21st century parks, the wonderful parklands of Floyd's Fork and all that, they're putting in new walls using old technology. All those are those dry laid stone, like traditional techniques that it's really nice to see a modern park with using old technology that's going to be around forever.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think even downtown Lexington has done a really phenomenal job putting some of these stone walls through.
Really good job. Really good job.
Through some new development.
And then we had a really large project years ago for a very good client of ours on their farm in Shelby County.
What
and
amazing walls!
Oh my
they
gosh,
did.
we were able to reach out. Like we did all the flat work and kind of traditional Pennsylvania stuff, Pennsylvania bluestone and all those kind of things in house. But dry stone technology is a whole different ball game. And so we were able to bring in experts in the field that were the best in the state and build those walls. And we did an amphitheater with dry laid stones, and it was dry stack stone walls, and it was just beautiful.
I mean, it is such a true art what these people create that, I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm so thankful that this has not been, this skill has not been lost.
Exactly. The Dry Stone Conservancy was one of the first organizations in the United States devoted entirely to preserving and teaching dry stone masonry. So their mission is twofold: protecting these historic stone structures while training the next generation of skilled masons. And that's really the key thing, because they have these amazing programs you can go through and become apprentices and learn under master masons and learn how to do this technique. So yeah, it's great to have an organization like the Dry Stone Conservancy preserving these things and
and training more people to pick up that art.
Yeah, it's nice it's still going strong.
Yes, it is.
So the stone walls of Ireland, really quite spectacular.
It is, and it's a neat connection for Kentucky to have, to share that with Ireland. Okay.
Well, since I guess we'll just touch on this, don't need to go in big, but I think it's kind of fitting since we just talked about stones and rocks. One of the places we went to was the Rock of Cashel.
And, I have to admit, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that we were going to go. I've kind of seen a picture. I was like, okay, whatever. It was massive.
It was so cool. I mean, it was
so
like...
if you don't know what the Rock of Cashel is, it's not a rock. It is
Well, it's on a rock.
it's on a rock, but it's a huge
It's old castle.
castle.
Yeah, literally.
And I mean, it is unbelievable the size rock that it sits on.
Yeah, it's
But then the shape, like just the sheer size of this castle that's built on top of this rock was amazing. And if I remember correctly, this is where we saw the first wildfire.
it is where we saw the first wildfire
So we're
because
sitting up so high on this massive stone castle, the ruins of it. And this was in County Tipperary. But you can just see, I wish I could remember exactly how far you could see.
they picked this spot very strategically on purpose because it is perched on this limestone outcrop. So just the location itself is really cool. Mm-hmm. If you were just standing on just what you are, and then you have this amazing fortress, or what at one time was an old castle,
Medieval,
yeah,
yes,
exactly. I mean, it overlooks an area kind of that they call the Golden Vale. I guess it's part of the County Tipperary, as we talked about. And like you said, the views were so massive. We saw wildfires miles off in the distance in it wasn't Kilkenny, it was Kilkenny. I can't remember. But anyways, but there's all kinds of ancient history with this, and we're not going to go into all of it, but it goes back more than 1,000 years.
So I think it is important to realize that the Rock of Cashel, it begins around the 4th or 5th century AD. So it's a very, very old connection to Irish history.
Oh yeah, and the ancient princes of Ireland,
Yes.
the kings of Munster.
And then it does have a legend that connects the site with St. Patrick.
That's
And
what
of
it's. They call it
course-
St. Patrick's Rock.
Right. And so it's thought that St. Patrick visited Cashel in that 5th century. And so that's where kind of that legend starts with the association of St. Patrick.
Well, and he converted King Ungus of Munster to Christianity.
Mm-hmm. So it's very important.
Well, the details are surrounded by legend, obviously, but the association between St. Patrick and Cashel are a very important part of Irish history. So they even had a little gift shop down there selling all kinds of little St. Patrick items and what.
Yes. So it's really neat to see. They don't really have a lot of gardens. That was not an important aspect of
neat
that.
cemetery.
It did have a neat
Really
cemetery.
cool cemetery.
And when you're looking at a rock as large as it sits on, it's amazing that they can have a cemetery.
Oh yeah, no.
But it is worth seeing because the relics, the art inside the castle with the carvings and just the structure and how that structure is still standing.
Some really neat ancient architecture.
Yes.
And in 1978 or 978 A.D., the rock became the stronghold of Brian Boru, which is Brian Boru is one of Ireland's greatest high kings. And anytime you study Irish history, you're going to hear about Brian Boru, the great Brian Boru. But he eventually became the High King of Ireland, and his connection to Cashel helped reinforce the site's importance as a site of Irish political authority from a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that building has so much history. It's just absolutely amazing.
And then so you had the Rock of Cashel, and then down below that was that little abbey. We didn't go to the abbey.
We didn't go to the
but
abbey.
That was really neat too. But just it's one of those sites, like you said, you immediately step foot on there, you can just feel this is hallowed ground. It's the history is amazing. It's just like the land, the whole site just kind of speaks. You can almost feel the spirits or something in a weird way. I mean, don't you think? It's like being in a movie. Like it's like being in Lord of the Rings or something.
It really was. Yes. And I think it's very interesting because you can see the entire countryside. You sit so high that, that's just an amazing fortified building, just with the stone, but it sits up on the stone and just how far you can see. There was no way somebody was going to sneak up on you.
No, not at all.
No. So I think that's, I don't know that we really need to go into a whole lot more about that. If you go to Ireland, highly recommend it. It's more than just a pile of rocks. It's really phenomenal.
Pile of rocks. A pile of rocks is everywhere in Ireland, though.
No, it is.
But they make piles of rocks into art. So there you go.
Okay, so let's talk about another, not necessarily a pile of rocks, but the Cliffs of Moher.
Yeah, but we are doing a nice theme here. I like this because
a lot of rock.
A lot of rock.
A lot of rock. It's important though over there.
The Cliffs of Moher. You can't have a trip to Ireland without. I don't think. I mean, this is one of the big ones they say go check out, and it was
spectacular.
It was worth it. I mean, it's one of those that it's just like. I mean, it's obviously not on the scale of the Grand Canyon, but it's just like any of those really good natural, amazing sites that you can't take in until you're actually there in person. Photos look amazing, but they don't do it justice.
They don't. So it's really interesting because the Cliffs of Moher, they kind of rise up from the Atlantic coast in County Clare. And they're probably one of Ireland's most kind of iconic natural landmarks.
Yeah.
It's about...
It was about 8.7 miles, something like that. Almost,
yeah. Not quite 9, but it's a decent stretch. And it's about 700 feet.
Some of the heights go up to 700 feet above the coastline.
Unbelievable.
So it's really dramatic. And they're part of the larger Burren landscape and the Cliffs of Moher UNESCO Global Geopark. So it is a protected landscape, obviously.
And thank goodness, because I don't want anybody coming over and just kind of trying to, build a massive house right over there to see the beautiful cliffs out there.
Yeah.
Their back window.
So it's a fun. We hit it at a great time because it's a tourist place. Obviously, it's a great spot.
Sure.
And so they're set up to take buses and all this stuff. We hit it at a perfect time. It was busy, but it was not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
And we had clear weather, which is key. If you ever go, try to go on a clear day. Obviously, you can't predict the weather anywhere, especially in Ireland. But like we said earlier in the first podcast, our weather was very sunny and dry, which was perfect for the first leg of our trip because we went to places like the Cliffs of Moher, and you could take advantage of those vistas and actually see things.
Well, because, Ireland is known for the rain.
Yep.
And if you try to go on a day where it's foggy or rainy, you're not going to get the whole expanse, that vista.
Well, and remember when we were driving around and Lily was on Instagram and she either somebody she follows or a friend of hers or somebody that just went to the Cliffs of Moher like 2 days after we did, they couldn't see anything. They literally couldn't see the views of the amazing coastline because the weather was so bad. So it was like, you might as well not even gone.
So on a side note, because it's really interesting, as we're walking up, our son Crane is walking and all of a sudden runs into one of his fraternity brothers.
That was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
So here we go all the way
to
Ireland, and he bumps into a friend of his from university. So yeah, that was kind of a fun little moment there. But
that was fun. That was fun.
So we talked about how there wasn't a lot of people there at the time, but just so happens to run into somebody that we know.
I know.
So,
what are the chances?
Yeah.
So the Cliffs of Moher were formed more than 300 million years ago.
That's amazing.
During the Carboniferous period. The region was covered by a shallow tropical sea. So over millions of years, layers of marine sediments accumulated on the seabed, eventually compressing and kind of these distinctive shale and sandstone layers that form the cliffs today. That name Moher comes from the Irish word mothar, meaning a ruined fort or ancient structure.
And it's definitely an ancient structure.
Yeah. So a promontory fort once stood near the southern end of the cliffs, likely serves as a lookout point along this exposed Atlantic coastline, which again, just like the Rock of Cashel, and all across Ireland, it's a small country, but they were very smart in ancient times to create these strategic points of like vistas to create, good observation points.
I think they had to because of
it's an island. You got to protect it.
It is, and then you had all of the.
You're constantly getting
Vikings.
sacked by Vikings and everybody else.
Yeah. Well, because it's such a beautiful country, everybody wanted it. Mm-hmm. So they were very kind of a defensive or settlement.
The cliffs were part of a traditional agricultural landscape where local families, farmed small plots of land, grazed their livestock, their sheep, whatever, and harvested turf, like we talked about from the nearby bogs. And that was kind of cool because they still had sheep running around there.
They do.
And in fact, almost every site we went to,
every single site we went to
they're still using
cattle and sheep,
agricultural land on a protected, which is great. So it's not only a preserved site that the public can come and learn, but then they're actually making use of in an agricultural fashion, which is great.
And of course, I have lots of pictures of cows and sheep as well. So hopefully, we'll get some of that up on the website so people can see just how amazing and agricultural and beautiful the land is. So
yeah, there's even a tower up there. We just saw the tower, but we didn't go up, and I don't know if that's open to the public or not. But it's cool. It's really neat.
It is. So one of the things that I thought was really, really cool is as we walked across kind of the cliffside, and then, they do now kind of have some barriers that kind of prevent you from falling over and, off the cliff.
Be a bad first step.
It would be. It would be. But it's so amazing to see like what plant material has survived.
I was amazed. The plant diversity up there was really quite stunning.
It
It's
really
pretty,
was.
yeah.
And so many of what and I know I think I said this on the last podcast, but the perennials that we go to our garden centers here and buy are almost
They are
weeds
weeds. It was
over
frustrating. I
there.
kept saying this every time we walked everywhere because it was frustrating me. I was like, why do their weeds look so good? Like, we see all our horrible things we don't like honeysuckle and dandelions and all this crabgrass. And all their perennials their weeds are basically these lovely perennials growing.
Yeah. So we call like thrift or sea pinks. They're just growing.
Armeria,
Yeah, they just grow kind of along the side of the walkway. You've got
the red fescue.
yes, and it's very very ornamental. It really does. Because it's such a tough natural grass, it can survive very well on those cliffs and the hillsides and things. But it just went on and on and on how amazing those perennials were.
The Yorkshire fog, we don't have that. Holcus lanatus, it was a cool little silvery grass that was kind of blended with the red fescue. And then the plantain, Plantago lanceolado, that is a hardy perennial. It's kind of adapted to those poor soils and grazing pastures. But all these, it's a really neat little landscape of these different tough plants, obviously, to grow on an Atlantic coastline like that.
Yes. But they had like wild thyme, some of the geraniums that were there naturally. They had yarrow, foxglove. I mean, it was just amazing.
Geranium, yeah.
How so many
Oh, and the
of
gentian.
these...
They had lots of gentians, too.
Yep, they did. So that was really cool. It's just to see how those plants had it adapted to that harsh environment and that they were just growing so well. It was actually really colorful.
And so, yeah, that's an interesting observation because it's obviously all those are very kind of most of them are most low growing kind of growth habits to resist the wind. They obviously are deep rooted because they have to anchor themselves in those
Yes, they do.
thin, rocky soils. But that also helps keep that environment from being eroded too much.
Yeah.
A lot of them
Besides just being pretty.
exactly. And a big one is salt tolerance because obviously they're getting that spray
Constant spray.
from the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And so they have to be able to do that. And then, grow in those they're pretty nutrient poor conditions. They're not rich habitat.
No,
So,
they're not. So that was a really, really great kind of a day trip that we took. And it was just really, really fun to see kind of those botanical treasures along with that amazing rock structure that's just shaped by the Atlantic Ocean for just hundreds and millions of years.
really is. And then you sent, so we keep to go back to, of course, modern times and reels and, viral videos and things. But I guess 2 weeks ago, you sent that video, maybe it was only a week ago.
Oh my gosh, yes.
There was a small, so you have the main kind of
Cliffs,
which are obviously these just huge structures right off the coastline. And then kind of sitting out from that, they have these little
outcrops of
they have a special
towers.
name for it. Like rock towers, I guess, yeah. And then there was a name for that one. But you sent a clip of literally, like, just finally the stone eventually succumbs. The water always wins. And here's this thing that's been standing there for millions of years and just a face of it sheared off and went into the ocean.
Yeah, and that just happened like right after we left.
Yeah, like I think the video was actually like a week after we left, and people were sitting there just kind of recording things like we would, and all of a sudden just a big face of it just sheared off the cliff.
It just went right down into the ocean.
Pretty wild. So shows that it's constantly changing.
It
even
is.
Even things that take millions of years, that's still happening right before our eyes.
Yeah. So after that, we went ahead. I guess it was the next day. We traveled up more kind of inward of the off the coast, and we went to Ashford Castle.
Yes.
And that was one of those stops that I was really excited. And you were very, very nice and scheduled a high tea for us to enjoy at Ashford Castle.
Anybody knows Hope knows that she loves.
I'm a tea person.
You've always had a little bit of grandmother. I mean, this is a compliment, but a little bit between your tea and your knitting and your sitting with your just lovely little things.
Yes.
And,
yes, I do.
You're very content sitting in a little stone cottage and with a.
I would just adapt to Irish culture very, very well. Yes. So we did. We traveled to Ashford Castle, which
and we touched on this already, so I don't know.
It's got a long history, but I think let's just kind of realize that it was built or it was purchased, I guess, by the Guinness family, And so they lived there like in the 1850s and after.
Well, but first it began 1220.
Okay,
At
well,
least
yeah.
real quick, is in County Mayo, Lough Corrib, and it's on 350 acres of woodlands, gardens. It's really an amazing property.
Spectacular property.
Quickly, it starts. We'll wrap up after this, and maybe then we'll put the final. I guess we'll make 3 podcasts out of this.
It's going to have to be 3.
So we'll do this and we'll end. But basically began in 1228. The Anglo-Norman de Burgo, or now the Burke family, they built a fortified castle defending the native O'Connors of Connacht, and they kind of positioned this castle here for that because it had important waterways. Again, it's all about strategic points. You see a theme here. All these places are built on strategic preserves and military strongholds. So it went from that family to passing to the Bingham family. I don't know if any relation to the Louisville Bingham's kind of interesting.
It could have.
Yeah, who knows? And then that was in 1589. But then, as you were just talking about, and I'll let you take over, it's 1852.
And that kind of was the kind of that golden age when the Guinness family purchased.
It was Benjamin Lee Guinness. Yeah,
Benjamin Lee Guinness, and they really added this very impressive Victorian, almost over the top.
They made it what it is now. I mean, it is over top, but in a good way. I mean, it's spectacular.
Yes. So they took that just amazing interior, and then I think they purchased area around it so that it's a lot more acreage.
And now it's like
thousands of acres around the house. And so if you stay at the castle, they offer like fly fishing, falconry. You can walk with the Irish wolfhounds.
I know you're mad that we didn't.
I really wanted to see the
Well, I
wolfhounds.
just figured we'll get our own. So there you go.
There we go. I like that idea too. But it's just amazing everything that they offer people that stay at the castle now as a hotel, and it's actually one of the most elegant hotels in all of Europe.
I mean,
it's spectacular,
beautiful, really quite lovely.
But they have the most amazing formal gardens, scenic walkways. I mean, they have a collection of like rare and exotic plant species that, as horticulturalists, we walked around
briefly and just I got a taste of it.
And it was just
lovely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I guess that was Arthur Edward Guinness, who was the son
Yes.
of Benjamin. Once he passed away, he was a real passionate horticulturalist, and so he's the one that kind of created those gardens. And it is, like you said, it's just one of those, just for the specimens alone, you're seeing these ancient, breathtaking trees that have just been there for so long.
Arthur Edward Guinness planted thousands of trees across that property, and he's the one that developed these spectacular formal gardens and these walkways that I was talking about, and really, really took his vision and love of horticulture into this landscape design. So it was amazing what he created.
Exactly. It was cool. We were walking around the gardens before our tea schedule, and we actually saw a family out there doing the falconry.
Yeah.
And that was cool. We did that. We did a little bit of a falconry
when we went to the Cotswolds.
The Cotswolds in our English.
But I think this one is more of a one-on-one.
Yeah, and you walk the gardens and they're running. It was cool. It was really neat.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately we were kind of standing and watching, and we distracted the falcon, so
we moved on quickly.
We had to move on.
And that was funny too, because this place is so lovely, and obviously a very high-end hotel, and they're very they have to be careful about things because obviously people want to come in and look at it, but it has several checkpoints just to get in there. So you have a big gated entry. You have to go to that checkpoint, explain why you're there. Are you a guest? No, we're here for high tea. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And then we go and park. And then we're trying to walk around the gardens because we knew we got there half hour early because we don't want to be late.
See the property.
Well, we don't want to be late for tea either. So, and then this very dapper Irish gentleman comes out with his little cap on. And he was very firm though. He was kind of intimidating.
At first, he was doing his job. He took it very seriously.
Like, why are you here? I was like, well, we were have high tea. It's like, okay, what's your surname? I was like, Gardiner, and he's like, okay. I was like,
he knew what time we were.
And he's like, what time's your appointment? And I was like, or I think we were supposed to be at 1:30 or something like that. And no, it doesn't matter. But I was like, he's like, you're a half hour early. I was like, yes, I know. We were just going to walk around.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
And so he was like, okay, you can walk the grounds before, because we weren't allowed in the house because it is,
it's
the
for
hotel.
residents, for people that are staying.
But he did allow us to walk the gardens. And so we didn't have a lot of time.
No.
But we definitely were able to see. And there's, a spectacular formal garden directly behind the house, which was very typical for that time.
Well,
and then the formal gardens off to the sides. Mm-hmm. And there were some, really interesting fountains, amazing, I think some relics of when it was more of a fortified house that we got to walk up on the stone, which would have been kind of the wall that surrounded the castle. There are still some
they had
of
little state guard stations and everything built into that. It was really cool.
So we got to see kind of that history with it as well. And then the collection of plant material and the alleys. There was just so much amazing.
Well, what was so lovely is that our tea was in what's called the Connacht room. And that room was right off the back of the house.
And it
has these amazing, almost conservatory type windows that overlook. It's on a little bay, so it's got a little water. So you go straight out to the formal gardens, and then beyond that, this water. And so you're just sitting there. You have classical music playing. You're drinking your tea. You're eating your various scones and pastries and all kinds of sweet meats and sweet treats. And what do you call it?
Oh, and our the gentleman that was our, I guess, waiter.
Oh, he was wonderful. He was so
and he
perfect.
was from the area. So I mean, they're all very local.
Oh yeah.
And I wish I could remember his name right now.
It's awful. It was an unusual name. We wrote it down because
Daria.
Yeah, he was.
It's a very traditional Irish name, and he did such an amazing job taking care of us, and was really, just really kind of added to our.
Well,
our
and
time
just
there.
to have that kind of service, because we don't have that in our society anymore, where you sit and you breathe and you just take your time and you have the tea and you have your treats and it's so relaxing. It's like
it's funny because he starts off, and as soon as we sit down, he says, "You have an hour and 45 minutes." Mm-hmm. And you're like, "Oh my gosh, we have to sit here for an hour and 45 minutes?"
Yeah.
Well, then next thing you know, I think we were the last ones to leave. Loved it. So
we highly recommend it.
It's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap, and just like staying at. But
why we did not stay there.
I think next time I think we might try to stay at night because we saw some friends last night. Total sad thing, but we went to these. We go to this Ashford farm here in Kentucky, right down the street from us. They do an amazing concert series, and we saw some friends there last night, and they had done they had stayed there at Ashford Castle and said how just lovely it was, obviously. So it's
it is worth a stay. But yeah, that's going to be on our next trip. So let's go ahead and do the Connemara, the bog landscape that
I was going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Don't you think? Because we got to save some stuff for the next. Yeah. Let's save that for next time.
Let's save that for next time.
So we will do one more segment of our Ireland travelogue on the next podcast, I guess.
Yes.
Unless you all write in and tell us, stop talking. Go back to gardening. We're trying to keep gardening there too.
Well, I think that it's important to let people know that there's amazing gardens all over the world, and this is just one little area that we.
Well, and this is way we love this kind of the blend of gardening and history and architecture and art and all things kind of tied together.
Yes, it is. So. It is all tied together. But we had a fantastic trip and wanted to share some of what we saw, and then we'll get back to more local stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardiners. Please subscribe or follow to get new episode updates. And please help us get the word out about our new podcast by dropping a rating or review. Those are much appreciated.
If you have any questions, either garden, landscape, or horticulturally related, you can email us at
Ireland.
Yeah, we'll give you our whole itinerary. You can do your own Irish trip. But you can email us at GWTG, that stands for Gardening with the Gardiners, at boomgardener.com. And remember, our gardener is Gardiner.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.